All right, everybody, welcome back. Today is September 26th. It is a Tuesday. Today we're going to continue talking about the Jim Crow era. However, we did not have a bell ringer today, but instead of the bell ringer, we talked about our first test study guide. Yes, I handed that out today in class. So if you have not been in class today, make sure you get on the Canvas and print out and download and print out, in that order, the Progressives Test Study Guide. As you can see, it's at the very, very top of the Progressive Era page, right below the subheading. So please make sure you download that. If you get that, you can see the study guide here. This is what you'll find. You can print this out. I'm going to hand it out to the class on a pink piece of paper, but if you print it out here, that'll be perfectly fine for you to use there. Some things I want you to notice. The multiple choice section questions are these 10 that you see here. I give you the page numbers for every single one, except the first one, which I'm asking you to think about the Teddy Roosevelt video we watched on the presidents in class a couple weeks ago. So if you are going through some of these words to describe Teddy Roosevelt, maybe here's some of the words you can think about. And you can provide from your video sheet about how they describe him. So think about those words and use them. Every other question here has a page number to refer to when it comes to the these questions. Again, these are the multiple choice sections. The day before the test, we will be doing a Kahoot game on these, and then we will also be reviewing the essays. Speaking of the essays, I have 2 essays. All right, each of these essays you will be given a choice. So let's read the first one. Of the following groups, who had it worse in the United States from 1870 to 1920, which is roughly our Gilded Age Progressive Era, time period, that time slot we're looking at. We're looking at immigrants, women, or African Americans. Use details to help explain why. I'm looking for 3 to 5 sentences on the test. However, I want you to bullet point these answers on the study guide. Do not write the full essay out. Just give me a brief points of what you might provide. Just give you some sort of preparation. That way you know what you're going to say. Because if you don't prepare for it, obviously it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to write up a full essay on the test. If you have some brief points, outline, bullet point, do whatever you got to do to make sure you come prepared for the test. Pretty much what you can do to bullet point, select the group, say maybe I'll do immigrants. So bullet point immigrants, and then bullet point maybe in two or three other ways afterwards, what information you're going to use to support that conclusion, that immigrants had it worse in the United States compared to the other two. If you want to use African Americans, awesome. Bullet point African Americans, and then state why you believe their lives were worse compared to, not really compared to everybody else, but just why were their lives so bad in the United States that you would have to choose them, saying that these are the people who are exploited the most in the United States. So, give me your reasons, but you have to use evidence. Don't just assume anything either. Don't just tell me, hey, we're going to, I'm picking African Americans because, you told me that we have this stuff and going on. So, but you have to use details. Don't assume I know it. Because if you assume I know it, you're going to lose points for it, because I know this stuff because I taught it to you. However, you need to write as if you are writing to somebody who doesn't know about this stuff. So please give me as much detail as you can. All right. If you need help finding detail, I can lead you to the right locations, but, come to your own conclusions. And if you need help, I will help you. All right. Second question. This is the question that will be the same aside from this section right here the entire year. All right. I will change this Gilded Age Progressive Era, topic to whatever topic we're talking about in that unit. So next unit will be about World War I. So how's the United States during World War I kept up with the constitutional principles? But this essay is going to be how's the United States during the Gilded Age of Progressive Era kept up with the constitutional principles with which it was founded. Now, I'm going to ask you to refer to your gold sheet that we got days 2 and 3 here at school, asking you to take a look at each of these principles. I need you to pick one principle, explain why or why not it was followed. All right, so if you don't think it was followed, tell me why. If you think it was followed, again, give me evidence and use details to support your answers. I'm looking for this to be the longer of the 2 essays because you have a lot more information that you can use at your disposal compared to this. This, is only based on the second half after the quiz that we talked about. This question is from the entire unit. Everything is fair game. All right, but you have to use the evidence that makes sense. You can't say provide for the common defense and immigrants were being treated unfairly. Okay, well that's not our definition of common defense. So make sure that the principle or the promise that you choose from the gold sheet from the beginning of the year, get that out based on your definitions. Which one makes the most sense for you to use according to this unit, and then give me evidence why. All right, this is going to be due October 3rd. Again, October 3rd. It's a week from today, which is Tuesday. All right, so the test will be on October 3rd as well. I will collect the study guides before you take the test, and then you will get a homework grade for them. So please make sure you come with this completed. That's all I'm checking it for. I'm just checking it for completion, because if you did your preparation ahead of time and you kind of knew some of these answers and you went through it, you should be good to go. All right, so come prepared and you will be rewarded for it. Okay, not only just on the test grade, but also this is as a separate assignment. All right, so please make sure you come prepared. All right. Continuing onward today, we continued discussing the three main ideas that we have from below. Now, you have a worksheet that we got yesterday from this. You can go to Canvas, scroll down, and download the worksheet if you need to. This is it right here. All right. But we actually got an opportunity to look through some of especially the voting aspect of this first today. So if you downloaded this and you get to the very top, the first main idea, which you see here, that during the 1890s, Southern states employed several tactics to deny African Americans the right to vote. You can actually go through and look at some of those topics. Compare those topics with the website that I found on PBS, and the link again is on Canvas. If I go back to Canvas here, you can see the rise and fall of Jim Crow. Click on that link. That will take you to this page right here. All right. What I want you to do is, if you're trying to vote, I want you to go through the process of what registering to vote was like for African Americans back in the Jim Crow era. So please, enter the ballot and go through the process. But consider yourself someone that's going to go through each of these processes and succeed. Because I want you to see what it was all like. And because, obviously a lot of people failed and a lot of people stayed at home because, hey, I didn't have a grandfather that voted, so I'm going to go back to the very beginning. So we don't want to do that. I want you to keep going past this. But understand that for a lot of people, more and more people get taken out of this idea here because, of these steps. Because, like I said, 95% of African Americans, I didn't say this earlier, but, their grandfathers didn't vote because their grandparents were slaves. So when they want to go vote, they can vote because their grandparents were slaves. And that just continues on and on. Your grandkids won't be able to vote because you didn't vote. And that's the intended cause, to make sure we keep people from voting and or at least the registration of voting. That's what it's all about. Now, there are laws that exist that say you cannot prevent African Americans from voting or women from voting. However, there are loopholes that the southern state governments found to quit people from registering from voting. If they're registered, you have to let them vote. There's no way you can stop them. But if it's about registration, then that's what it's about. That's what they're going to try to get you on. All right. So we went over the grandfather clause, and also we went over the literacy test today. Now, the literacy test, if you want to, you can go to Canvas. Go back to the Canvas page, wrong tab. I said you could print out this copy of the 1965 Alabama literacy test when you get to that part of the webpage. So when you get to this page, all right, literacy test, click on the test here, and you can print this out or download it and look at some of those questions. You will see that this literacy test isn't really testing literacy. However, it is testing your knowledge of the U.S. government. It asks you questions like, when the president is elected in November, what day in the following year do they take office? Or, if you don't want to say, I solemnly swear in a courtroom proceeding because you're not okay with swearing, under oath, what can you say instead? All right. It asks you some very difficult questions, and this test is meant to help people fail, because they don't want to see these people voting. Okay, so now, most people probably would say, will we pass the test? Nope. We go back all the way to the start. So let's continue onward, and this is what we'll get mostly tomorrow as well. As you get to the poll tax. When people have the poll tax, they will have to pay to go register to vote. Most African Americans in the South cannot afford this tax. All right, and then they go onward up to the transportation. Most police officers at this point, when they saw African Americans voting on election, or not voting, but when they saw African Americans driving on election day, they would pull them over for some bogus reason. Let's say like a taillight is out. They would throw them in prison with these really bogus charges, and they wouldn't release them until the voting polls, the polls have closed. So, anytime you're caught driving in town, a police officer would probably pull you over, find a reason to arrest you, charge you with it, put you in prison, then not release until after the polls were closed. So this is something that was very, very negative. That was, the police, they found ways to find loopholes to get African Americans from voting. Because at the end of the day, essentially what they did was they went to the prison cell and they said, "Oh, I'm sorry, it was a bogus charge we put you on. We're sorry for the inconvenience." Then they let them go. There was nothing on the record. However, their sole intention for being in town that day was to vote, and they could not do it. Okay, but transportation was a big deal as well, because you live several miles away. Most people don't want to walk and take that time, so they would drive. If they did drive, people would be arrested and for some reason held in the jail until the polls were closed, and then they get out, and then there would be no way for them to vote. All right, so that was really, really a negative way. Now, if we continue onward, we decided to walk into town. This is when the sheriff gets involved. The sheriff says, in getting this far, you have demonstrated mobility, determination, and phenomenal test-taking aptitude. At last, you have one more serious obstacle to overcome, the county sheriff. As he hears of your impressive performance, he has made an appearance at the polls. he loads his revolver in front of you and announces that he doesn't think today will be the best day for you to vote. And if you try to cast a ballot, the message is clearly he will kill you before he lets you vote. So there's definitely a system that was put in place to really make sure that African Americans could never vote in the South. Laws existed that forced people, if they were registered, to vote, but the South said, we're going to try to prevent you from registering. We're going to do everything we can to make sure you cannot vote. So the tables are turned against African Americans here in the South when it comes to voting. Tomorrow we'll look at more of a widespread area. And most of the classes actually will learn this stuff tomorrow because we didn't get quite as far. We didn't get quite far past the literacy test. But I finished this out for you so you can kind of see it. If you're not going to be here tomorrow either, this is a great thing for you to use. But come back tomorrow. And if you need to finish up that worksheet, we'll go over the rest of the worksheet on the main ideas portion. We'll go over the rest of these questions about the Jim Crow system and also the responding to discrimination from African Americans. We'll go over those 2 questions tomorrow. Look at those main ideas, or at least the evidence from those main ideas. All right. Everyone have a fantastic day.